Johnson, what could we tell young people today to make them more conscious of their responsibility and perhaps guide them into becoming involved in such programs as Dr. Jones is talking about? I mean, what do you say to them today to try to convince them of the importance of what we are talking about?
Well, I suppose the first thing you do is expose them to the kind of environment that's available at Meharry. And there are programs in operation here now, which Dr. Jones is more familiar with than I am. They're funded by another government agent, National Science Foundation, where we actually have a kind of liaison with the Martin Luther Jr. King School, Magnet School of Health Sciences. And students get exposure to Meharry, get exposed to the laboratories and to the environments. They learn something about the sort of offerings in the health sciences. They talk with students and talk with faculty members.
Have you had very much success with those programs?
Oh, it's been a very successful program, and the approach here is early exposure, but it goes a little bit beyond what the Minority Centers MRCE program is doing. Let me just give credit to the LINKS organization that brings students in, very young students, into Meharry on Saturday morning for informal, really, discussions, and then initially where scientists, dentists, and physicians come in as role models and talk to students, explaining to them what we do as scientists, what physicians do, and how we became motivated to our professions and the kind of training that is required, so that they get the understanding that scientists are not some weird character they see on TV who does not live a normal life, and that we're always in some little dungeon-like laboratory doing some research which nobody understands. We try to give students that exposure early on, and then next branch into reinforcing the subject areas that are needed for successful careers in science and research. Well, now the program that we have funded by NSF focuses more on high school students, and we bring those students in for what we call a mentoring program, where they're able to go to the dental school and work with a dentist, they go to the hospital and work with a physician, or they go to the research laboratory and work with a researcher during the school year and during the summer. And they have early exposure to the field. They're able to make an informed choice or decision about careers, and they become acquainted with what is required academically and otherwise in terms of commitment to be successful in those fields. And I think that's very important for our young people.
There's another point I'd like to make here that's extremely valuable, I think. These students, when they get a chance to be with each other, perhaps end up being better teachers of each other than any of us are. And I think the same thing happens with the various summer programs when we have minority students coming to Meharry from all over the country. They get a chance to see what kinds of development have taken place with others of their kind in different parts of the country. They have a different sort of respect for each other, and I think it's inspiring to them to talk with each other and work with each other and reclaim different objectives.
During this final few minutes here, let's talk about something that sort of impacts upon the medical science, primarily because a task force in health, I think, listed homicide as the 6th leading cause of death among black people in the state of Tennessee. And I think that there's quite a discussion on the increase in violent crimes and teen violence and etc. I would like to, for both of you to give us some information or your views in reference to what we call this black-on-black crime and the impact that it's having in the medical areas.
I think blacks on blacks violence is an outgrowth of a complex set of problems, I think. I think in any discussion we'd have to consider the possible influence of substance abuse and alcoholism on the development of violence. I think one has to think of the chronic agony that black youth experience and attempts to reach out I think people say that hate is the opposite of love. And I don't think so. I think hate's an intermediate thing, and that apathy is the opposite of love. So that this business of black violence on blacks has to be due to what some people has called self-hate, but I'd rather think of, no self-esteem. So that it would suggest to me that we need a concerted effort aimed at behavior modification, which would start with development of self-esteem. Now, this isn't a specific sort of thing that I'm talking about, but it's a complex problem. And I think the solution would come not from a single kind of institution, but from a consortium of institutions. I think the religious institutions and the medical institution and the educational institution could together, in a synergistic kind of fashion, begin to make meaningful steps toward achieving resolution, or at least amelioration of this significant problem.
Very good. Dr. Jones?
Let me speak to that. I agree with Dr. Johnson. It's not a simple problem. There are many different facets of it. At Meharry, Dr. Hank Foster has started a very exciting program, I Have a Future. It's aimed at addressing this problem of teenage pregnancy. The basis here is to raise self-esteem among youngsters. And I think that gets to a part of the problem we talk about, black-on-black crime and violence. That is a very innovative and successful program, one which now serves as a model for developing programs across the country, where they are working with these young people, getting them to develop a sense of worth, self-esteem, and the fact that they can be somebody and be positive contributors to society. That is a very exciting thing that we're doing at Meharry right now.
Very good. Dr. Johnson? Any additional information that you'd like to leave us this morning in reference to some of the problems or some of the successes that Meharry has accomplished, anything like that?
No, I think that Meharry is available to be a full-fledged partner in the community. And when I say with the community, I mean all aspects of the community. And I'd like to emphasize partnership. As an African-American institution, oftentimes the majority of the community thinks that when you reach out, you're doing so as a petitioner. I think we need to do so in the full spirit of partnership, where there's a quid pro quo. And if nothing else, we at least have the expertise of deprivation.
Very good. Dr. Jones, any final comments here? Last couple of minutes.
Well, I agree to that. The problems we face as a community and as a society are numerous. It's going to take a variety of approaches and talents, and we at Meharry have much to contribute to solving these problems from a different perspective in some instances, and in many instances in a partnership with others. So I think there's room for all of us, and we certainly want to be part of the partnership that brings about an effective solution.
Very good. And let me thank both of you for coming by and giving us this information today. We don't expect to have covered everything dealing with minority health and health services in this 28 or 29 minutes, but we do believe that by raising some of the questions and talking about some of the things that we've talked about, at least we've given our audience some idea of the complexity of some of the problems that we're involved in. And again, let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. In addition, if you've got any additional information that you'd like to give us, or any topics that you'd like to talk about during this hour on Sunday mornings, we would certainly encourage you to send such information to us at the television station, and we'll make sure that we can somehow pull together a panel and work out some things in reference to it. Again, let me encourage you to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments.